Another season, another recap video of all fun off-meta decks I played during the Wisdom of Sea and Sky set, including full deck lists and win rates. Before I start, I just want to make clear that my off-meta decks focus more on having fun than climbing ranked points, so my standards for win rates are much lower than what you would typically have for actual meta decks to climb ranked with, like Darkrai Giratina or an Espion EX deck. With that said, let's jump right into it. My ranked climb started in Ultra Ball 3 with this Xatu Typhlosion deck. This combo was pretty hyped even before the set had been released, and I just knew I had to play it straight away. By using Xatu's attack with Will to take any Pokemon down to 10 HP, and Typhlosion's ability to apply Burn to that Pokemon, which deals 20 damage to it at the end of the turn, this combo is the only way to guarantee a one-turn KO on any Pokemon in the game that is not immune to burn damage. The main problem is this combo needs 6 cards, which is why we rely heavily on the Sylveons to draw our deck as fast as possible. While this is purely just a meme deck, I had a lot of fun playing it, and it managed to achieve 7 wins and 8 losses, taking me from 1010 points to 1031 points in Ultra Ball 3. The next couple of decks were slightly more serious lists that I used to climb to Master Ball quickly. Since this was the first season where we could no longer drop down in rank from Ultra Ball or Master Ball, I wanted to get to Master Ball as fast as possible so that I could then go all out on playing only fun off-meta decks, and be able to compare them on equal ground while also improving the quality of matches and opponents for my videos. So first, I used the Stoutland Sylveon list similar to one I used last season. Because this was the first day of the new season, I overestimated how good Silver really is. The idea was using Red Card and Silver on turn 1 to attack my opponent's hand and ideally get rid of their Professor's Research, while then using Sylveon to get my Stoutland online as fast as possible and deny my opponent from attacking as well. My previous Stoutland deck had seen good success last season, but this time around, it performed below my expectations since this was supposed to be a more serious list to climb to Master Ball. It reached 12 wins and 11 losses, taking me from 1031 points to 1137 points in Ultra Ball 3. So then I resorted to the exact same list of my strongest deck from last season, this Toucannon Flareon EX deck. By using Sylveon for card draw, Toucannon for fast attacks, and Flareon EX to finish the game, this deck can somewhat reasonably win matches even against top meta decks. Unlike my Stoutland list, this deck still held strong this season, reaching 13 wins and 6 losses, taking me from 1137 points in Ultra Ball 3 to 1270 points in Ultra Ball 4. The next day, it was time for a new video, so I turned to the new Gyarados. By pairing Gyarados with other cheap basic Pokemon, we could sacrifice them for heavy damage and then retrieve them back with Fissure and Fishing Net. This deck surprised me, as Gyarados can deal heavy damage very fast, but the main problem is getting Magikarp consistently among the 8 basics in the deck. This deck reached 7 wins, 10 losses and 1 tie, taking me down from 1270 points to 1249 points in Ultra Ball 4. Then I went right back into my Toucannon Flareon deck for my final push to Master Ball, this time reaching 23 wins and 14 losses, taking me from 1249 points in Ultra Ball 4 to 1459 points in Master Ball. In total, along with my previous matches, this deck reached 36 wins and 20 losses. Now that I had reached Master Ball, it was time to turn up the wacky off-meta deck creations. However, tracking points became harder at this point because I was frequently experimenting with decks on my phone as well, but the highest I reached was around 1550 points by the end of the season with this Kling Klang deck. So the next day I used this Chuckle EX Aerodactyl deck. The point here wasn't building the best Chuckle deck, but to see how far I could push a fun Troll deck with Aerodactyl and Will. So by using Chuckle as an early game tank, Aerodactyl to get rid of any especially annoying Pokemon, and then putting all excess energy on Celebi to eventually sweep, this deck felt super fun to play. I particularly loved this match where I won against Charizard EX by sending both Charizards back onto their deck, which meant they lost both rare candies and could no longer replay them. The main issue is because both Chuckle and Aerodactyl barely deal any damage, this puts too much pressure on Celebi to get all 3 points. However, it still worked out kinda better than I thought for a meme deck, reaching 10 wins and 14 losses. My next deck focused on Politoed. If you have Politoed on your bench, the damage of your active Politoed or Poliwrath is increased by 40. I can't really emphasize how bad this card is, though I admit this deck can still be improved. I also included Rescue Scarf here to be able to replay Politoed in case it ever got knocked out, which actually came in handy sometimes. But Politoed is still far from being good, and I suspect we'll be getting a new Politoed EX or Poliwrath EX in this next new set to make it ever so slightly better. As such, This was by far the worst deck I've played this season, but somehow still managing 4 wins and 9 losses in Master Ball rank. Next up, I used Caesar. Ultimately, Caesar is just a worse Silvally in almost every way, but still better than people realize too. By combining Caesar with Skarmory, Fossils, and baby Pokemon, we can take advantage of its attack effect to very frequently and quickly start dealing 100 damage in this aggro deck, which can overwhelm a lot of decks if you get a strong enough start. But for just a bit of extra fun, I decided to add a touch of Basidon here as well, though the deck is probably better off without it. In the end, this deck reached 7 wins and 8 losses. The next couple of decks use the new Unknown cards. If you have both Unknowns on the board simultaneously, all your Pokemon deal 10 extra damage and receive 10 less damage from attacks. This is like having both a Giovanni and a Blue always active, but can be a fairly tricky combo to get online. The first deck paired them with Skarmory EX. By using Jasmine, Steel Apron, and the card Unknown, Skarmory can feel almost invincible, and this might be the longest effects list I've ever gotten on a single Pokemon. On the other hand, the Power Unknown boosts Skarmory's EX damage to 80, which is enough to threaten to 2-shot Pokemon with up to 160 HP. This deck could sometimes feel a little bit clunky, but it managed 5 wins and 6 losses. Then, I paired the Unknowns with Executor EX and Shuckle. With Leafcape, Erika, and the Unknowns, Executor EX becomes extra bulky while being able to deal up to 90 damage for a single energy, especially with Will. I also added a Celestial Town Elder here to either save an early lost Unknown or execute, which actually won me a couple of matches as well. I quite like this deck, and it reached 4 wins and 5 losses. Next up, I tried an extreme pairing with Beedrill EX and Crawdaunt. This combo can sometimes be incredibly strong and toxic, by discarding an energy from the opponent every turn, or up to 2 energies with Crawdaunt, which can suddenly and completely shut down some Pokemon. As such, this deck was potentially able to handle just about any deck when it actually worked. The problem, as you may have guessed, is that it is terribly inconsistent and over-reliant on getting your Beedrill EX early enough. If you didn't, you would just lose. So unsurprisingly, it lacked too much consistency to compete against meta decks, reaching 4 wins and 7 losses. The next deck focused on Ampharos. When paired with Will, Ampharos is able to deal 120 damage for only 2 energy, while sporting 150 HP, which is pretty impressive for a non-EX Pokemon. However, this is a 4-card combo, so I relied on both Sylveon EX and Jolteon for consistent early game aggression, while also trying to play 2 Ampharos every match. This deck felt pretty good, though sometimes still a little bit inconsistent. It reached 6 wins and 4 losses. Then the next couple of decks both use the new Jumpluff, whose ability makes all your Pokemon have 0 retreat cost. The first deck paired it with Snorlax, Berry, and Pheromosa. Although at times a bit too reliant on drawing the right cards, I quite like this deck, as there's something irresistibly fun about making Snorlax retreat for free while still being able to use a supporter like Cyrus or Mars in the same turn. This deck reached 4 wins and 2 losses. The second deck paired Jumpluff with Snorlax EX and Darcius. This was more focused on having a big wall in front to tank while we set up, then using Ailima or Jumpluff to retreat it. This deck reached 1 win and 3 losses as it struggled more against Oricorio, but this was a very small sample size, and during my experiments, it still felt as good if not better than a non-EX Snorlax list. Next up, I tried something I had been curious about for a very long time, by bringing a Zero Trainer deck to Master Ball. I chose a Lightning deck because of powerhouses like Oricorio, Magnezone, and Tapu Koko, while relying on good old Sylveon EX for card draw. I also couldn't help but laugh whenever an opponent used Silver or Penny against this deck and imagining their reaction. But I'll be honest, most matches that this deck won were thanks to Oricorio, although occasionally Tapu Koko and Magnezone could steal a win here or there as well. Incredibly, this deck still managed 5 wins and 5 losses. The next deck used Octillery and Kingdra to trap opponents cursed by the Octopus Ink. By adding a Chatot here to stack Confusion with Octillery's attack effect, opponents needed to flip 2 coins in order to attack, and then I would try to trap them with Kingdra on top. However, water decks can feel very slow right now going first, which I expect will be substantially improved with the release of the new baby Pokemon Mantike next set. Despite that, I had a lot of fun playing this deck, reaching 3 wins and 2 losses. And finally, the last deck I used this season was Klinklang. By combining Pichu with Dialga, we aimed to quickly ramp our Pokemon one way or another. Both of these Pokemon are useful for Klinklang, but what surprised me here is that Pichu is actually decent for Dialga as well, helping it use heavy impact earlier than ever, which can help get a point or two before Klinklang even comes online. However, this could at times feel clunky and inconsistent if you didn't draw your Pokemon in the right order, or if you didn't draw the leaf to retreat your Dialga going first. Ultimately, this deck reached 13 wins and 16 losses. And those are all the fun of meta decks I used this season. Check out my channel for in-depth videos on all of the decks I shared here today. Note I try to focus more on fun decks than competitive ones, so I don't really recommend any of my decks to climb ladder. Anyway, let me know what you thought of these decks and of this video. Is there any deck that surprised you? If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave a like and a hype and consider subscribing for more fun of meta decks. With that said, thank you so much for watching, I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll see you on the next one.